If you get a seat at the table, use your seat at the table.
Yes.
And I decided that I'd use my voice and tell my story to help others overcome some of the similar challenges.
Follow the Leader features dynamic women entrepreneurs in their journeys to becoming a success in business. This podcast is an inspirational space for entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, and thought leaders as they share their keys to success. I am Chanel Christoph Davis, the CEO and founding partner of the largest woman and minority-owned sales tax advisory practice in the country, Davis & Harmon, LLC. Well, today I am so excited to bring to the Follow the Leader audience an amazing, amazing business leader. Her name is Dr. Karmetria Burton. She is just so many things. I'm going to try my best to lay it all out for you guys so you can understand what a treat we're in for today's interview. Karmetria Burton is a supplier diversity expert. She's an international speaker. She's a transformational leader, born and raised in Houston, Texas. She's currently residing in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm just going to welcome Karmetria so we can start this off with a bang. And then I'm going to give the audience a little bit more about you. Karmetria, how are you today?
I am good. Thank you so much for the introduction. I'm happy to be here and, happy to have a conversation with your listeners. So thank you.
Absolutely. And, the reason why I asked you to be a guest leader today, because you are, in fact, an amazing dynamic leader. I had the pleasure, Karmetria, of meeting you this year in Dallas at Summit and Salute. We both were attending the Women of Color Conference for WeBank. WeBank is the Women's Business Executive Network Council. And you were presenting one of your signature talks. You're founder of Paint Your Lips Red. The movement is not a foundation, but it's a movement to empower and encourage women and to really allow women to see their beauty and to step into the fullness of themselves and to realize that they're leaders in their own right. And I said it on your talk, and I was so amazed and empowered by your talk that I was like, I really need to have her on Follow the Leader.
Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you.
So just to give the audience a little bit about you and some of your accolades, you were featured in Black Enterprise for your work at Delta Airlines and Supplier Diversity. You were also named one of the top 25 women impacting diversity by Diversity Inc. You are a 2515 Influencer Award recipient, a Trailblazer Award recipient by the Black Business Professionals and Entrepreneurs Organization. You are a 3-time winner of a Champion of Diversity Award by Diversity Inc. magazine. That's just a few of the awards you've received. But what I'm so impressed by, Karmetria, to be quite honest, is that you have sort of a two-pronged kind of dual, dynamic career path. You have two very full, amazing careers. You're Director of Global Supplier Diversity and Sustainability for Delta Airlines, which in and of itself is phenomenal. And you also have your own business. You're a leadership coach, you're a professional speaker, and you also founded what I've previously mentioned, the Paint Your Lips Red movement, which I want to talk to you about and you to share with the audience a little bit more about what was the impetus for that movement and what you're doing under Paint Your Lips Red. But tell me,
Sure.
what was the reasoning why you decided, you were kicking things off and doing amazingly well on your career at the Delta Airlines. But why did you decide to, in addition, start a business doing leadership coaching and public speaking?
Yes, great question, Chanel. So thank you again for the opportunity to be on your podcast. I'm always excited. What I call passing the playbook along to other leaders. And your question, what made me decide to go and be a leadership coach, mentor, trainer? And to be honest, it was 2 reasons. One reason was I wanted to increase my leadership, right? I wanted to be a better leader. And then the other piece of that is I wanted to be the leader to people that I always wanted.
Oh, that's amazing.
And, you know, you can, I am sure some of your listeners have been led by people or have been on teams and have always thought, wow, how did they get that job, right?
Yes.
I can do better than that. And so I've always thought that I wanted to pass the playbook on to other people to help them. But then kind of, if I could build my own leader based on my experiences, good things and bad things, that is what I wanted to do as well. So I am a certified John Maxwell speaker, coach, and trainer. And I've always loved the John Maxwell brand and everything that he stood for. I love the Maxwell leadership methodology. And so I went on that probably about 4 years ago and decided, one, I wanted to be a better leader, and to two, help other leaders be good leaders.
That's amazing. I mean, I think it's amazing.
You know, being a leader is something that, you know, we can work hard and we can be smart and we can go get all the accolades and the business acumen to get into leadership roles, but sustaining that leadership role is critical. And so that's why I really decided to go ahead and pass the playbook on to other leaders. In fact, I'm actually in the process of writing a book, and this is particularly for women leaders. Because, you know, being a woman and being a leader, that comes with a whole set of challenges. You know,
absolutely.
If you're too strict, you know, you have a certain stereotype. If you're too nice, you have a certain stereotype. So as a woman leader, you have to strike the right balance, right? And just the steps to becoming a woman leader in corporate America are challenges of its own. So stay tuned for my book. It's in the works right now. I'm really excited about it. And I'm excited to be able to use my voice and tell my story and pass on the playbook.
That's amazing. Well, the one thing I love about what you've said is that you are grooming future leaders, right? You are taking the time to identify and really address a need that you had when you first came out into corporate. You were looking for leaders, you were looking for mentors, and maybe it wasn't available to you. So you decided, I'm going to make it better for the future. That's incredible in and of itself.
Thank you. And to your point, you know, going up through my corporate career, I never had a mentor. I would say, you know, the term mentorship, and then you can take it to another level and talk about advocacy and sponsorship, really didn't come into play. I would say it's probably been about 12 or more years where mentorship really became a focus with the methodology.
Wow.
And going up through corporate America, being a woman and being an African-American woman, there were always men, right? Oftentimes I was the only woman, the only African-American woman, and the only young African-American woman at the table.
Absolutely.
And that was a huge level of intimidation for me, right? I never had anybody to say, hey, come here, I see that you're good at this, or maybe you should have said it this way, or have you thought about that? I didn't have that. So kind of pulling myself up through the corporate arena really made me one day say, you know what, I want to help I'm passionate about women, but leaders, period, figure this thing out easy, right? So any good coach has a playbook, right? When you look at all the good coaches, Nick Saban, one of my favorites, they have a playbook. And they pass that playbook along to their assistant coach or maybe to their predecessor to sustain the team.
Absolutely.
And so that is what I have committed myself to really raising the next group of leaders to sustain leadership. And that's what it's about.
And you're absolutely right. Starting off my career at PricewaterhouseCoopers, there were mentors were few and far between. We were assigned mentors, but you're right. It was very loose, and it wasn't really something that people really understood what the requirements were, what we were supposed to be meeting about. So it was difficult. So you're absolutely right. For you to spend so much time focusing on this arena, I mean, you're going to be impacting women for years to come. I think that's incredible.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't wait to see. I'm excited about the book too. Well, I did jump ahead a bit because clearly I wanted that question answered for myself personally, but I want to step back and talk about your career. You've been in supply chain for a long time, and you're currently the Director of Global Supplier Diversity and Sustainability at Delta Airlines. A lot of people may not understand or know what global supplier diversity means. That's a loaded, I mean, they may be familiar with diversity and inclusion in general in a corporate scenario or setting, but global supplier diversity is very specific. So I want you to talk a little bit about that. What does that entail? What does your day-to-day look like? And what impact, you're making an amazing impact in diversity and inclusion. What impact are you seeing and trends you're seeing in your area?
Sure. So I always like to answer that question as if I were talking to my 6-year-old nephew, right? Not to insult anybody, but to make it as easily as understandable as possible. So supply chain is the organization that's responsible for creating and negotiating contracts with outside vendors or suppliers to get the Delta Airlines operation running. So often when people think of Delta Airlines, they only think of two things: the flight attendant and the pilots.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I encourage you to think of the operation much larger than that. Think of everything that has to get the plane up and going, right?
Yes.
So you think about the in-flight entertainment system, the food and drinks on the plane, the fuel to get the plane going, right? The carpet on the airplanes, our whole RFID bag system, right? When you get off the plane to get your bag, you go to a carousel. That is done by a vendor to make sure the mechanics of it is done right. Consulting.
Yes.
We often look for outside consultants to help us, right? So supply chain is looking at outside vendors and contractors to help Delta meet the day-to-day operation. Now, my piece is very specific. I look at and work with those contract or vendors that are women-owned, minority-owned, veteran, disabled, or LGBT. So I have a specific niche in looking for those diverse suppliers. So you think of supply chain, and then you think of the pie that is a part of supply chain, and that's diverse vendors to help you. So it's not workforce diversity, it's supplier diversity, where you're looking at those business owners that are diverse-owned to help us meet the day-to-day operation. And so it's global because we're a global airline. So not only do we look for contracts domestically and those diverse vendors, we look for diverse vendors that are global to the operation. Because, you know, Delta doesn't just serve domestically. We have 365 destinations across the globe.
Yes.
And so we are looking for vendors to help us get from A to B safe, on time, and with cost savings and innovations. And we've made great impact. I mean, we've increased about 15% of our supply chain spend goes toward diverse businesses. I just kicked off something called our Supplier Development Academy, where we have 6 strong potential diverse vendors that we want to coach and train them, right, on
Yes.
how to have scale and scope, bringing capital partners to the table, how to help these businesses become corporate ready. And so when you think about supplier diversity, you think about small businesses. Over 65% of the working population have worked for a small business or have owned a business.
Yes.
So when you think about Delta investing in these businesses, it really creates economic impact, right? It retains our customers, and it gives back to those communities in which we work, serve, and live.
Absolutely.
So it is an amazing, amazing way for me to show up at work every day and to not only give back, but to make a difference in the communities that we serve.
And the impact that you're making in supplier diversity and inclusion on the supply chain side, I mean, you're literally creating economies. You know, the ability to work for
Right.
a Delta Airlines means that those diverse suppliers can hire more employees, and you know they're typically have a more diverse workforce as well. So it's a trickle down effect, really.
Yeah, economic impact. That's absolutely right.
It's amazing, and I don't think that people realize the large amount of employers that small businesses employ in this country. It's, like you said, 65% of the workforce. So it may seem like, you know, a small, I guess, portion of the workforce, but it really is. It's more small businesses employing people in the U.S. than large businesses. So hats off to you. You know, you are doing a great, amazing work in this area. So tell me a little bit about the Supplier Developer Academy. What made you start that, and when did you kick it off, and what does that look like?
So, you know, and so real quickly, my story behind, you know, not only am I fortunate enough to bring the expertise to work every day, but I bring a level of passion. And to me, when you do something with passion, the outcome is different.
Absolutely.
So right out of college, you know, degree in hand, I'm a graduate of Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Woo-hoo!
Go Jaguars.
Yes.
Love my school.
You guys just won this week,
right
this
out of
past
college,
week, right? You guys won the Bayou Classic.
No one was hiring, right? And they don't really talk to you about that in college. All you know is when you graduate, you have this degree, and you feel like, you know what, I'm going to get any job I apply for. Well, the reality of it was you don't factor in other competition and other people with college degrees, right?
Right.
So here I was, right out of college, degree in hand, interviewing, and was not landing any jobs. And my dad is an entrepreneur. You know, I had always seen my father own his business, you know, made a great life for me, my mom, and my brother, but didn't want to work in the business, always knew that I wanted to be a part of corporate America. But the reality set in that nobody was hiring. And my dad said to me, you know, you can come work for me, right?
Exactly.
And I'm going, I don't want to do that. I'm not trying to work for a small business. No. And he said, you always got a place to work, and you can come back and stay home rent-free. Now, how could I pass that up, right?
But you were like, no, you went kicking and screaming. So, you didn't want to do it. You're like, no, Daddy,
right,
no.
Right. So I had to literally tuck my tail, you know, went and moved in with my parents and helped my dad grow his business. I was a business development manager.
Amazing.
And I was out doing sales calls to corporate America, pitching his business. And so now I have a seat on the other side of the table, right, from the corporate side, looking at these businesses. But I've also been on the other side, pitching my business to corporate America and learning what it means to get corporate contracts. So that's why I bring my passion level to the job. And the reason I started the Supplier Development Academy is because we would meet so many small, diverse-owned businesses. They were good businesses, but they just weren't corporate ready.
Okay.
There's a different level of value proposition that you have to bring to the table if you're going to do business with a Fortune 100, right?
Okay.
So I said, you know what? We need to be intentional about coaching and training these businesses on what it means to be corporate ready, right?
So can you give us some examples of
what is
what
your
you
elevator speech? If you were to get in front of a key decision maker, how are you capturing their attention in 45 seconds or less? Right?
Right.
So we started this development academy last spring. We have 6 strong suppliers in the academy right now that will graduate next November. Every supplier that's in the academy has to be recommended by one of our Delta leaders of our business units.
Okay.
And the reason why that's critical because it shows that a business that's in the boot camp could have a potential of getting a contract when they're done.
That makes sense.
So your business has to really align with some of the opportunities that we have internally.
That makes a lot of sense. So you touched upon a few things that you saw that needed to be shored up for these small businesses. They were sound businesses, probably had work history and have been around for a while, but you saw some things that were lacking. 2 things that you mentioned is being able to identify and communicate your value proposition. And number 2 is to have that elevator speech once you're in front of a decision maker. So do you feel like storytelling is a big part of pitching to corporate? Being able to have your story tight and being able to convey your story?
Oh, absolutely. Not only as an entrepreneur, but as a leader. The narrative is so critical. The narrative is so critical.
Yes.
You know, as a leader, if you're looking to get another job or sell your business idea to your boss, that's the narrative.
Absolutely.
Right? You got to know how to be able to sell that in 3 quick points.
Absolutely.
So whether you're a leader or whether you're an entrepreneur, What is your 45-second elevator speech? What do you want that person to know in 45 seconds or less? And you got to be able to grasp their attention.
And I would also add, for entrepreneurs who are listening and watching us on YouTube, narrative is important when you communicate internally to your employees or future employees, potential employees. If you can't excite your employees around your vision, you're not doing your job as a leader. So that is critical for you to be able to have that ability to communicate your vision, because it's in your head doesn't mean that everyone around you see what you're talking about.
That's a great point. And sometimes as leaders, you know, I'm guilty of this. I have big visions.
Absolutely.
And you're right. You carry a lot of stuff in your head, but you got to be able to articulate it to your team to carry out the vision.
It's crucial.
So I mean, thank you for that. That's absolutely right.
That's one of the things that I've worked on diligently within my business, is to, you know, communicate my vision to my leadership team, as well as trickle it down to our consultants, because, you know, you feel like you're steering a huge ship, but if you don't have all the players steering it with you, it's a heavy load. You can't get there alone.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And everybody bring those different talents, abilities, and gifts to the table to help. It's called the art of delegation, but that's another topic.
That's a whole nother topic. We went off on a tangent, didn't we? So that's amazing.
But it's a good tangent.
Yes, it was a good tangent. But we definitely could spend a lot of time talking about vision and narrative. I love the concept of the Supplier Developer Academy. Do you see that other corporate entities are implementing similar programs?
Oh, sure. Yeah. A lot of other corporations are doing it. Actually, it's one of the best practices of the guiding body of supplier diversity, which is NMSDC, the National Minority Supplier Development Council. Some development programs are bigger than others, but for the most part, most corporations have some type of development program for their small, diverse businesses.
Yes. And what we're describing, to explain to the audience, is this whole network of, it's a separate world, really. Supplier diversity is a separate world within the minority and business community at large. NMSDC is one of the certifying bodies, as well as WeBank, which is the Women Business Enterprise. They're another certifying body, and I'm members of both. So, but there's several. It's not just NMSDC and WeBank, but there's several certifying bodies that certify, I guess what you would say, underrepresented business entities. What are some of the others that you guys play pretty large in?
Sure. So just to be clear, in order for you to qualify as a diverse business, you have to be 51% owned, managed, controlled, and operated by women, minorities, veteran, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and disabled. So WeBank is one, which certifies you if you're woman-owned. NMSDC is minority-owned. NGLCC is the National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. Then we have NVBDC, all these acronyms, right?
It's a lot.
Which is the National Veteran Business Development Council. And then you have one that certifies disabled businesses. So those are the 5 partners that are the certifying bodies of those type of diverse-owned businesses that most corporations look for and accept.
That's amazing. So you are the director globally for Delta Airlines. So it means that you are the one that leads and drives the ship for Delta Airlines all over the world when it comes to diverse business entities.
Yes.
So that's a lot, Karmetria, by itself. Let me just say, Dr. Karmetria, that's a full-time plus job by itself.
Amen.
I'm impressed with that.
Yes.
But you decided, you know what? I want to take my talents, as some would say, a little bit further. And I'm going to start a separate business to do coaching, leadership training. You started a foundation. You know, tell us about your Paint Your Lips Red movement.
Now you're getting me super excited. I love what I do at Delta, but so my Paint Your Lips Red movement is also a foundation. It started out as a movement, but it now has a piece where we go out and support the community.
Okay.
So Paint Your Lips Red specializes in SelfCare. It specializes in self-awareness, leadership, sisterhood, and service.
Amazing.
Those are the 4 pillars for the movement. And just so you know, the whole premise of the Paint Your Lips Red is a tribute to my grandmother.
Oh, wow.
So my grandmother passed about 6 years ago, and so we moved her to Atlanta, and we decided to share in the responsibility of being her caregiver. She had, gotten sick. She was on dialysis. She had started having heart problems. So my mother sat us down and said, I want to move my mother here, but I'm going to need support in being her caregiver.
Yes.
And absolutely, we rose to the occasion and said, yep, we will support you. And going through this caregiving experience was transforming for my family.
I bet.
First of all, anybody out there that's a caregiver, it is ministry work. It is a labor of love. It requires a village to help you do that. And it's hard work, but you do it because, 1, you love your family, and 2, you want to make them as comfortable as possible. So anybody that's in caregiving, I understand. I have walked that journey for 3 years, and it was definitely life-changing and transforming for me. And so we moved my grandmother to Atlanta from Houston, Texas, and again, she was a dialysis patient 3 days a week. She began to have heart problems, and as you could imagine, going to the doctor at least 4 days a week gets tiring.
It's daunting.
Not only physically tiring, but emotionally tiring, because you're going to the doctor, you're getting blood drawn, you're having x-rays, you got to do all these tests. Then she would go to dialysis and be on dialysis for 2 hours and then come home and then eat and then physical therapy. I mean, it is a lot. Me just sitting here thinking about it is a lot.
Yes.
And so it was my day to take my grandmother to her doctor's appointments. And Chanel, without fail, I would show up every morning, and, she would just always have a level of enthusiasm no matter what she knew the day would bring. So every morning that she would get up, right after she would say her prayers, she would go to the bathroom and do her hygienics, but right before she would take her medicine, she would say, give me my red lipstick.
I know that's right.
I got to paint my lips red. And I was going, really? It took me a while. But what she was saying to me is her red lipstick was her cape for the day. That was her power to face any doctor's appointment she had, right? That was her way of being fierce. That was her way of being fearless.
Yes.
Despite of the long day she would have, her red lipstick was her way of showing up.
Wow.
And so, like you and many other women, I always wore red lipstick just as a fashion statement.
Yes.
But now it's a call to action for women to show up, for women to be fearless, but still be feminine. Because, red lipstick still personifies a lady with class.
Yes.
Right? A true lady. And so that's how the Paint Your Lips Red movement started. And so it is just my action for women to use their voice in any situation when they're feeling fearful, afraid, ashamed, unsure, vulnerable. Your red lipstick is your power, and that is your reminder that you got this, that you can do it afraid.
That's a beautiful, beautiful testimony to your grandmother. And I have to make you laugh. After your Summit to Salute appearance, I went on a all points bulletin search for my signature red lipstick, and I have it on today.
What color? Do tell.
It's a mix. I have to be complicated with it. It's a mix of I love Riri Woo. I think that's what Riri did. Rihanna did a line of makeup with MAC, and her red lipstick I love. And I do that with a little bit of a gloss on top, but I love it. It's definitely my signature color now.
I love that. And how do you feel when you paint your lips red?
I'm going to say that, having a red lip also, it may sound trivial to some, but there's a level of self-care to it as well. Don't you think? It gives you a little extra oomph, a little extra, wink and a nod when you see yourself in the mirror throughout the day. It makes you feel like you're showing up. You're giving a little bit extra that day, and you're taking care of yourself.
That's it. Confidence.
Yes.
It's the confidence in every area.
So that was the gift you gave me this year. I want to say thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure.
So do you have any plans or events for 2019 for your foundation?
Yeah, so we are ending the year. So also with Paint Your Lips Red, I started a pledge called the 5 by 20 Pledge. And Chanel, the purpose of the pledge is to get 5,000 women to sign this pledge by the year 2020. It's free to sign the pledge, but it's a commitment for all women to come together to commit to 10 things.
Okay.
And I coined it after the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So these are 10 habits of women who paint their lips red. So when you sign the pledge, you are committing to these 10 habits.
Okay.
Again, it's free to sign the pledge. It takes you about 60 seconds to sign it. You go to www.paintyourlipsred.com to sign that pledge. And so far, I probably have about 400 women that have signed the pledge.
Well, we will add that to the show notes so people can
go
out.
Those 10 habits. Yeah, thank you. 5,000 women by the year 2020, 5 by 20 pledge. As a result of that, I am doing a mastermind coaching session on the 10 habits in January of next year.
Nice.
So not only do I want women to sign the pledge, I want them to live the pledge. So they're excited about being what I call my tribe, right?
Okay.
The women that sign the pledge are women in my tribe, my red lip gang, as I call them. So not only do I want you to sign the pledge, but we really need to talk about what it means to live these 10 habits, right? So you can sign something all day long, but I really want it to be a part of women in their lives so they can be better mothers, wives, daughters, sisters, leaders, entrepreneurs, community activists, whatever it is. This is our collective way of standing together through the power of a red lip.
That's amazing. Well, I would love to be able to visit. If you're going to have many more in the year 2019, I'm going to have to sign up for one of those and come see you in Atlanta. Or maybe bring you to Dallas.
I would love that.
We may have to bring you to Dallas. Hey,
I would love that too. I love Dallas. It's one of my favorite places, not too far from my hometown, Houston, Texas. So I look forward to the invitation.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna have to put that on my vision board. Let's think about that. Let's think about that. Yes. And
that's a great idea.
Another thing you do under your business umbrella is you're a keynote speaker. You host workshops and leadership intensive. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yep. So the leadership intensive is just what I mentioned. I call them masterminds.
Okay.
And so we will focus on either two things. We will focus on the habits of women who paint their lips red, or I have a 7-step transformational process for men and women. So as we transform into leaders, there's a process that we need to shift our mind to. And so my mastermind class is focused on both of those topics. And I don't have the date yet for my transformational process, but for 2019, I'm going to be doing more public speaking, more mastermind classes. So if you know of any organization that's looking for a coach, a professional leader, for them to come out and just get their leaders motivated, inspired, and more importantly, equipped, please let them know Karmetria B would be a great consideration for them.
Okay. And I'm gonna add that information as well in the show notes so people can reach out to you directly. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I think leadership intensives are great for corporate environments or for small businesses. Have you ever considered going into corporations to do that for businesses as well?
Oh yeah, that's definitely what. Those are definitely two in my target audience: corporations if they're looking to train their leaders, or the entrepreneurial community. Right?
Yes.
Who better else, in my opinion, to teach small businesses on how to get and win Delta contracts? But not only that, your leadership, right? I understand you're running a business, but everyone doesn't have the business acumen. And that's what I really want entrepreneurs to get back to. And I'm a firm believer in the gaps that you have in your leadership are the people that you surround yourselves with.
Absolutely.
And sometimes entrepreneurs don't realize that, but that's when I can come in and really help them dissect their business and make sure they have the right people on their team so they can achieve their goals and increase their clientele.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, one of the key reasons why I wanted you to be a guest leader today, because you're an amazing leader, but I love the way you have developed your personal brand aside from Delta Airlines. And I think that that is something that entrepreneurs and CEOs, women CEOs in particular, because I think sometimes it's a challenge for women to want to step outside of their businesses and to be truly the face of their businesses. It can be intimidating and daunting, but you've done such an amazing job to, basically carve out for yourself a space to really develop your personal brand and put yourself out there. Tell us a little bit about how you did it. What was your first steps to do that? And what have been some of the rewards? And how do you see it as benefiting you as a holistic leader?
So great question. I often think about that, and I try to pinpoint it back to when did the transformation occur? And I think it was, I've officially started the Karmetria B brand probably now about 3 years ago, but I would say about 5 years ago. Part of what I do at Delta Airlines is going out and speaking on behalf of Delta in the community on how to do business with the Fortune 100, right? Mm-hmm. And so the entrepreneurs were always excited to hear the information. But then I start getting people, particularly women, to say, oh, my God, you said exactly how I feel. Can you mentor me? How can I continue the conversation? I have an idea or I have a challenge. Can you just give me 15 minutes of your time and help me with the strategic thinking or give some advice? And I was going, really? And then I started thinking, Karmetria, you have something to say.
Yes.
Your experience, right, is lending to your leadership. And so as I would go out and speak to people and people would come to me and say, hi, I enjoyed it. Can I get 15 more minutes of your time? Can you mentor me? Can you just give me some of your time or thought leadership on something? I'm going, wow. You have something to say. And I really began to sit down and write all my experiences down and began to brand myself as a leader. Again, a black woman, a young black woman leader in corporate America is not anything that people take lightly. I was just showing up at work every day, not thinking about it. But the way people would respond to me, because I would show up differently, that really made me begin to really dig deep and to really take all of my experiences and turn that into an opportunity where I can help other leaders. And so I think people, so one of the rewards are, follow me on social media. I'm at Dr. Karmetria B on Instagram. I got a letter from a young lady that I spoke at a conference to probably about 2 years ago. And the letter was simply, Karmetria, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to show up. Thank you for talking to me about what it means to not be afraid. Thank you for embracing being the only woman in the room sometimes. And thank you for allowing me to stretch and challenge myself. And I went, wow. If you only impact one person, you've done your job.
Absolutely.
And so that is what really gets me more excited about. It's about sustaining the leadership, right? Because Karmetria is not going to always be here. Chanel is not going to always be here. But we have a responsibility. If you get a seat at the table, use your seat at the table.
Yes.
And I rose to that challenge about 5 years ago and decided that I'd use my voice and tell my story to help others overcome some of the similar challenges.
Well, I want to just say that you're doing an amazing job. Thank you so much. I paid attention, so I know other women are paying attention as well. So I'm hoping that our talk today will encourage other women, business owners, maybe even people who are considering becoming entrepreneurs, that, you know, entrepreneurship is very varied. And one of the roles as the leader of the organization is to be, you know, out in the public and to have a personal brand. So to not shy away from it, don't be afraid of it, to walk into it because you actually do have something to give and something to say.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's exactly right.
Thanks for being
that's
an amazing
exactly.
example.
And you mentioned something I think is so critical is not only women, but I think it's a people thing, self-care.
Yes.
So as we show up in our businesses and show up at our jobs or show up as community leaders, it's important that you have to take care of yourself. I have a tagline that says self-care is a divine responsibility. Because you can't be good for anybody else unless you're good to yourself first. And when you practice self-care, it gives you greater alignment towards your purpose and your divine assignment on this earth. And so you got to take care of yourself. And I always tell people there's 3 ways to take care of yourself, right? Delegate, which ask for help.
Yes.
Sometimes we don't ask for help. And women are definitely guilty of that. So ask for
we're
help,
the worst
men
at
and
that.
women, but especially women. The other one is say no. Sometimes we feel bad about saying no to a project, turning something down, because we have a guilty conscience.
Yes.
And the other one is set boundaries. Set boundaries against those things that sap you of your energy. Protect your energy. If it's not positive, if it's not positive vibes, let it go. So ask for help, saying no, and setting boundaries are just 3 of my ways that I practice self-care.
And, you know, I find that setting boundaries, you get better at it the older you get. I've become a master at setting boundaries in my older days.
And that comes with experience.
It does.
Because you know what works for you and what doesn't. And that's how you're able to say, not only set boundaries, but say no.
No, this doesn't work for me.
Accept everything that comes your way, right? No, and I tell people, say yes to saying no. Say yes to saying no, and don't feel bad about it.
Absolutely.
Don't feel bad about saying no.
And I think one thing that we have as women in general is that we have a strong intuition. And you know when something doesn't feel good, or if something's not serving you anymore, or someone is not serving you anymore. And you know that that's a chance and a time where you have to pivot. Yep,
that's called your gut.
That's your gut. Yep, you got to follow your gut. So, Karmetria, what do you do for fun?
Oh my goodness, it's so amazing you would ask me that, because I've learned to, just like I mentioned, set boundaries and unplug. I like serenity. I love, did I say love? The beach.
Okay.
I love the beach. I love connecting with water and nature. I like being outside. I like walking. I work out. That's my self-care, because it allows me to release stress. It allows me with my personal time. I love to read. I love the movies. I'm not a foodie, but I do like trying different restaurants.
Okay.
And I love to laugh. Laughing just increases a lot of stress, and you release endorphins, and it puts 5 extra years on your life, so I'm told.
Yeah.
And I don't take myself very seriously, because, at Delta, I'm at work all day in meetings, making tough decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when I go home, I just want to laugh and not take myself serious, and
just kick back.
Maybe laugh at something I did earlier in the day.
So I know there aren't many.
If I'm not speaking somewhere on behalf of Karmetria B or doing Delta work, you can find me doing a few of those things I just mentioned.
So I know there aren't many beaches near Atlanta, Georgia, but you do work for Delta, so that helps. What's your favorite beaches?
Oh yeah,
give me a few of your top favorite beaches.
Beach, and it's not big, it's real small. I love the beach at the Bahamas.
Okay,
it's a quick flight, right? The Bahamas is never really busy. I love it. My second beach would be in Aruba. Beautiful, clear water. Hawaii is beautiful, and then Turks and Caicos.
Turks and Caicos, okay.
But anywhere there's a nice, clean beach, you are sure to find me there.
I love it. I love it. Okay, and lastly, I always ask this question at the end of each podcast. Dr. Karmetria Burton, how do you define a leader?
Is that what? Do I have to give it in one word or so?
No, just riff on it. Tell me how you what's your opinion or your vision of a leader?
I think leaders, and I would say my definition of leadership has evolved. To your point earlier, Chanel, as you become more mature or have experiences, your thinking shifts and it transforms. But I think one of my biggest things about being a leader is being a leader of integrity. Right? It takes hard work to get there, but doing the right thing keeps you there.
Yes.
And what I mean by doing the right thing by your people, doing the right thing by the resources, and living the values of your business or the corporation. I think integrity is one. I think being empathetic is another one. No longer are the leaders that are dictators, but you got to really understand what motivates your people.
Yes.
You got to understand what motivates the people so they can carry out the task of the team.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
A confident leader is also good. Being optimistic. As a leader of the team, I'm not saying be emotionalist, but you got to take emotions out of some things to keep your team motivated.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Maybe you're not making a profit that year in your company, or maybe there's going to be some changes internally in your corporation. But as a leader, you have to remain optimistic, even if you don't feel like it.
Yeah. Because
your team, they're looking at you. And then lastly, be inspirational. Inspire your people. Right? I think one of the best leaders I've had inspired me to be my best.
That's great.
It really made me feel good about my talents, abilities, and gifts that I brought to the table.
That's great. That's great. Well, Dr. Karmetria Burton, thank you so much today for your time. We are going to share all of your information so that my listeners can get in contact with you if they need a dynamic, amazing speaker. Trust me, audience, you would want to see her speak. She's amazing. And to get all the information on you, they can find you at KarmetriaBurton.com. But again, everything's going to be in the notes so that they can reach out to you directly.
That's right. And my email address is hello@KarmetriaBurton.com.
Awesome.
So I am looking forward to connecting with anyone that's looking for a motivational speaker in your area. Follow me on social media to keep up with events that I do. I live in Atlanta, so there are a lot of local events I do in Atlanta. But I am looking to collaborate across the globe. So I look forward to it. And thank you, Chanel, for this platform. Follow the Leader. I love the name of it. Thank you for creating it to inspire other people to follow the right leaders and people they can identify with.
Amazing. Thank you.
Keep up the great work. My pleasure. Thank you.
You can find all of our past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, and Google, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe to the show, rate, and leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. Thank you for listening.
You're listening to RNCN, the digital destination for premium talk radio.